Hey guys, today we're going to show you how to add a user to a group in Linux. So yeah, you can do this pretty easily. And let me just show you what I have set up for a group right now. So groups are defined in etc group. Now you can look them up with other commands also. But let's just go down here and take a look just so you're familiar with what the file looks like. Now we have a group called test1 and we have the user1 is a member of test1. Now we also have a user called user2, and let's say if we want to add user2 to test1. Now I'm logged in as user1. So we might say sudo usermod -a-g test1 and user2. Now we've just added user2 to the group test1. So let's take a look at the groups file, and we can see here test1 not only has user1, but now we've added user2 to that group. So that's great. Now say if we wanted to add a user to multiple groups, like let's say if we want to add user2 to bind and to the Wireshark group. Let's just try that. All right, so user mod, now we can say bind Wireshark, right? So you're specifying the groups first in a comma separated list and the user right here. So run that, and let's check our groups file. So we notice user2 has been added to bind and to Wireshark. Running that command twice should have no effect, and it has no effect because it's already there. It's not going to add you twice. But let's say if we wanted to add user1 to those same groups, can we do that? All right, it does not exist. So you can add a list of groups here, but you can't add a list of users here. So worth knowing. Using the -a will add the user to these groups, but they will remain in any groups that they were already in. But if you don't use a -a, it's going to remove the user from any groups except the groups you specify. So it's basically going to ensure that the user is in all of these groups, but is not in any other groups at the same time. So let's say if we were to grep user2 in etc group. Now we see user2 is in a few of these groups. So let's say if we were to just go ahead and remove the -a from this. Now user2, and remove this because we want it to we want the syntax to work. All right. Anyways, run that, and let's see what groups user2 is in now. Now that user2 should be only in bind and Wireshark. And we can see, obviously, the group defined for user2, named user2, exists, but we've removed user2 from everything except bind and Wireshark, right? So it used to be in user2 used to belong to test1 and VBox users, but that user's been removed. So that's how that works. All right, so if we want to remove the user from one of these groups, we can use, rather than user mod, you could use gpassword-d. So grep user2 etc group. Now we have user2 is in bind and Wireshark. So let's say if we want to remove user2 from Wireshark. So you can say sudo gpasswd-d, and you can say user2 Wireshark, removing user2 from Wireshark. And it looks like it worked. User2 is now only in the bind group. All right, so now if you want to show which groups a user belongs to, rather than grepping the, I just like to grep etc group, but you could use the id command or the groups command. You could say id user2, and you can see user2 is in basically its own group and in bind. So the groups it gives you the group ID. There's an ID here, and then the group name, group ID, group name. So two groups. So So user2 is a member of its own group, user2 by default, but also a member of bind. So you can also say groups, and that's going to be a slightly, this is simpler, easier to read formatting. I kind of like this a little bit better. But you can see the user2 belongs to user2 and bind. Okay, pretty straightforward. All right, let's say if you wanted to create a new group, you might say, so we really just wanted to show you how to how to add users to a group, but let's continue on and show you some more stuff that we have in our document here. If you want to find this document with any of these commands, just check the link in the description. But all right, let's say if we say sudo group add and call it test2. There we go. We have a new group called test2. Now, if you want to remove that group, you can just say sudo group del test2 and it's removed. So that easy. Now to edit this file, you can also edit etc group directly. Now all our groups are here. You can just use VI. If you're not used to VI, you could just use nano or something else if you prefer. Let's see here. So basically we have the group name here, and these are colon separated, and you have the group ID here, and then a list of any users that belong to that group. So say for example, if I wanted to add user2 to test1 manually using this file, you can just say user2, and if you wanted to add a user called user3, you could do that too, even though user3 doesn't even exist. So you can do that. Looks like I didn't use sudo to launch this file, so I can't actually change it. All right, there we go, and we can see we added user2 to an additional group, test1. That's what we added them to manually just now. So yeah, we added user here, and it works just by editing this file. We changed the group we changed the users that belong to this group. And so you can add as many users as you want, comma separated, and that's essentially it. You can create a new group like this. If you wanted to create test2, you could create a new group like this, rename it to test2, make sure it has a unique name, don't just duplicate the line. Now the other important thing besides a unique name, you need a unique ID. Now this can get to be a lot of trouble. You could just increment it if you knew that this was the latest number in the file, but in this case you can't because there's already a group that has that ID. Basically you have to make sure that you have a unique ID that's not in the file somewhere. So usually you could do that, or you could just use a command to create a group. You could use the group add command, which is going to take care of that for you. Otherwise it's kind of a bit of a pain and it's kind of messy. I would generally advise against it. I mean, I usually, the first place I go is if I want to add a user to a group, I just edit this file directly, just because it's so much easier. But I would avoid creating a new group here. Honestly, I think I don't create new groups that often, but I think it's still easy enough. Just make sure your ID is unique. For example, you could say 1, 2, 3, 4. And just do a quick search, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we see it only occurs once in this file, in the place where we defined it. So we're good. It's actually that easy, so you might want to avoid using commands like, you could still use group add, but yeah, now that I think about it, it's probably really is easier just to edit etc group directly. So hopefully you found this useful, or at least interesting, if nothing else. You might want to give me a thumbs up. You might want to hit that subscribe button also, and hit the little bell icon. Otherwise, YouTube's probably not going to let you know when we come out with a new video. We do have a lot of great stuff coming up, and we've actually, if you want to check our list of videos, we've already put out a lot of pretty interesting things, some more interesting than others. We cover a lot of great stuff: coding, servers, hardware, software, 3D printing, electronics, single board computers, robots, networking, all sorts of great tech related stuff that you're not going to want to miss. So if you want your YouTube feed to be that much more interesting, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button. But more important than any of that stuff, you're going to want to leave a comment down below, especially if you know something that I don't know. Definitely let me know, not just for me, but for the next person who comes along and watches this video and reads the comments. Leave a comment for them also. Any comments, questions, criticisms, whatever you want to say, I probably want to hear it. So do leave a comment down below. And that's pretty much it for today. So as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.